All right, we are on to our last kind of type of question that we're going to be working with this unit. So this question here, let's read this question. Calculate the total energy required to change 125 grams of ice at -7 degrees C to steam at 130 degrees C. Okay, so we're looking at number 7 here now. All right, whoops. What is happening? Let's think about this. We're going from ice at -7 degrees C, so we're all the way down here, and we're going to go up to 130 degrees C steam. Well, to do that, we're going to have to heat it up to 0, and then we're going to melt all of our ice, and then we're going to heat it up to 100 degrees Celsius, and then we're going to turn it all to steam, and then we're going to heat it up to 130 degrees. So we are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equations that we're going to have to solve. So let's write down what we know, right? We've got 125 grams of ice. We're starting at -7 degrees C, and we're going up to 130 degrees C. Well, for us to go from -7 to 0, right, we would use Q equals mc delta T. To go from 0 to 0 and go from solid to liquid, we would use Q equals HF moles. Then we go from 0 to 100, well, that's Q equals MCAT again. Then we go from a liquid to a gas. Now that's Q equals HV moles. And then finally, we go from 100 degrees steam to 130 degrees steam. And that's going to be Q equals MC delta T again, okay? So for this question, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to solve 5 equations, and then we'll add up each of our Q values, okay? So Q1 is going to be equal to, well, my mass is 125 grams, times the C value for ice, which I think is 2.04 joules per gram Kelvin. And then we'll multiply by our change in temperature. Well, if we're starting at -7, we got to go to the melting point, so that's -7 to 0, right? So my change in temperature there would be 7 degrees C, okay? There's my Q1. Q2 then, right? So this is going from -7 to 0. Now we're melting. We're going to do HF times moles. Well, I don't have my moles yet. I got to take my 125 grams of ice. We'll go grams of ice. Well, that would be 1 mole of H2O is 18 grams. So that would be 125 divided by 18. That would be 6.944 moles of ice. So HF, that's going to be 6,010 joules per mole. And we're going to multiply that by our 6.944 moles. Then we've got Q3. Well, Q3, right, our mass again, 125 grams times 4.184. All right, that's our specific heat for liquid water now. And we're going from 0 to 100, so that's going to be 100 degrees C. Then we've got Q4, right, now we're going from our liquid to our gas. So that's going to be HV, which is 40,700 joules per mole. We still have the same number of moles, so that's going to multiply by 6.944 moles. And then we've got Q5, and that's going to be MCAT. So M is, again, 125 grams Our C value for steam is 1.996 joules per gram Kelvin. And then our boiling here, or past our boiling or heating our steam, we're going from 100 degrees up to 130. So that would be 30 degrees C. That is going to be our change in temperature. We'll solve each of these, we'll add them together, and that's going to be our final answer. Okay, so Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3 plus Q4 plus Q5. Okay, and that's going to be our final answer there, right? It seems like a big task, but not so bad, hopefully, okay? So for these questions, when we have just something, right, melting and changing temperature both, right, we're changing phases and we're changing temperature, we have to account for that with our graph, right? We say, okay, we're going up here, well, we can use that equation. Then we're melting, then we got to use this equation. Once we melt, then we can heat it up again. We can use MCAT again, right? So we need to identify where we are on this graph, okay? All right, so we should have enough information now to do all of the questions on the first worksheet and our second worksheet.